All right, we should be good to go.
Yeah. Give it a couple minutes and let people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I got to get this game started anyway. There's no audio because I'm not tabbed in right now. There we go. I'm gonna hope that this isn't too loud.
Check for you. Try speaking.
I'm talking.
Joker has been apprehended. Batman is now en route to Arkham Island.
I think you sound a little low. The game is out. I could hear myself, but yeah.
It probably would also help if I moved my mic closer.
Stand back.
Let me fix a few things here.
When did Arkham Asylum come out? I feel like in the 2010s, right?
09, I think.
Oh my
08,
God.
around there.
I am old. I am fucking old. I wasn't still in college when that happened.
Alright, I'm as cranked up as I can get. I just need to fix the in-ear audio when I get a second.
Can you lower it on OBS, or what are you using?
I don't have my audio separated from this bit.
Oh, okay.
Let's skip through that.
We will have to get you some voice meter lessons.
I haven't set that up yet.
No, Jake. That Truth probably shows up after this stream. We're just gonna be talking about the Batman movie.
He's gonna be here at 10 p.m. Eastern. So
There
that's
you go.
when he texted me. So that'll be what, like 3 hours from now?
Yep.
So, Geek, you want to tweet us out that we're live talking the spoilers?
I don't really have access
Oh,
to the Fire9 account.
I'll take care of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have
need
access to the
get you
Twitter account.
access.
Yeah.
I'll have to get you access. I forgot how this works. Nope, that is not. I'll figure it out. Give me a second.
No problem, Jake. Batman movie's really good. Did he beat the movie in one try, classy? Like he beat everything else. Yes. Alec, let me know when all the audio's good, and I guess we can start. How long have we been?
Right. Just needed
Oh,
to...
5 minutes.
Alright, should be good now for audio. And the tweet just went out.
Yep, got it.
Commissioner Gordon here.
Yes, sir.
Thank
He's
you, sir.
waiting for you down at patient handover. He got here just before you did.
Okay, I think the game sounds a lot better now. Listen to the stream. Yeah, okay.
Yep, not too bad. Yep.
Alright, so I guess we can get started. Yeah, we can discuss spoilers in chat. We're gonna be talking about it obviously in VC. But yeah, we can discuss spoilers in here. I don't know about how the others feel in their other streams moving forward, like if they want to talk about it, because it is the first weekend that the movie's out. But for this stream, you're safe to talk about spoilers in the chat and what you liked, what you didn't like, while we discuss it amongst ourselves and with you guys. So, again, welcome to the 5-9 spoiler chat cast of the Batman, myself, Alec and Nolar are here to discuss it. I don't know if any other people that have seen the movie, because other Five Night members like Iron Cane saw us. I don't know if they'll hop in later or something, but if not, it is what it is. But yeah, huge spoiler warning for the entire 3-hour film that we got. So yeah, let's get it going. So I guess we can just start off from like the order of the VC. I'll start with Alec, then Nolar, then me. Alec, what did you like think of overall of the movie, like in general?
So it was a good movie, and I'm probably going to be the only person who says I recognize that this is a good movie, but I don't think I really enjoyed it. Just the tone of the film, like I'm not a huge film noir guy. There's a lot of cinematic choices made in film noir that I feel aren't necessary. Like it's a 3-hour movie and there's multiple shots in the film where they just hover on something for an obsessively long time. It's like we could have gotten this down to like 2:15, maybe even 2, if we would have just tightened up some of the panning shots and some of the lingering shots.
All right, what about you, Nolar?
I really enjoyed it. This is gonna be really weird for me to qualify or quantify. I think it's probably the best Batman movie, but it's not the best. Because it's a very different, like this distinct style, right? Like the noir detective feels make it very different than like the Joel Schumacher Batmans, right? So, if that's what you want and that's what I wanted, I really enjoyed it. And I think it's better than say the Dark Knight trilogy. But I have to agree with Alec. I mean, I'm not saying to that extent where I didn't enjoy it, but the pacing was a little off. 3 hours. There are some movies where they're super long, but they don't feel that long. But this one, I enjoyed it. Like, I enjoyed all 3 hours of it, but I could feel the 3 hours. So to me, there were some pacing issues, maybe some like plot lines that didn't need to go in that detail. And again, again, this is the final cut from the director. Therefore, they made those choices. I would have personally made different choices, but that's the great thing about art and movies, right? We can say whatever we want, and no one's ever truly 100% right. So.
Gotcha. I mean, I'm probably gonna be the one that probably is gonna like love. I definitely love this movie. The most, probably the one here. I overall thought that the movie was fantastic. I can get the criticisms though, like the length, but I felt like it was also like a breath of fresh air for me, because I was like. Not a lot of movies, especially like you want to talk about comic book movies, take the liberty to just have nice shots or, at least like, I don't know if it's self-indulgent, maybe, but I really like that it took its like time, and you can distinctively tell that this was made by a person, right? Because sometimes movies, especially comic book movies, feel like a product, right? Like they feel like, oh, they made this movie just so it can tie into this, or there was no soul, no heart in this. This movie, I felt like this was the creator's vision, the director's vision the whole way through. Could it have been a little bit shorter? Possibly. Maybe like in the middle, a little bit, they could have shaved some stuff off. If you really want to go that hard. But for me, I felt like the way it was told, because it's like, what, 2:56 is what the runtime is, and with credits, it's around like 2:46. So it's like, realistically like 2 hours and 45 minutes or something, which is still long. But I personally wouldn't go to the extent of like 2. I don't think a whole hour needed to be cut. I think that's a bit too much, because there's like so many plot lines and characters going on. But overall, I just thought everything about this movie was great, especially the tone. I was a big fan of like the tone, because it was like Alec mentioned already, like the film noir type of style, which is not everyone's cup of tea, but I felt like it fit for what this Batman in this movie was going for. And as dark as the movie was, like visually, I feel like I never had a problem seeing anything, which is weird to say. Yeah, I absolutely love this movie. So I guess I can transition, since we're talking about the Batman movie. How did you guys feel about Robert Pattinson as the Batman, Bruce Wayne?
Get you into trouble.
I guess start with you, Nolar.
You've never let me touch you this easily.
Okay, so this is interesting because I'm going to address classy taxes here. So I'm going to cheer 3 bits. I think the only thing they need to change a bit about Batman is that Bruce needs to be a more defined character, not just another Batman. He should be different than Batman because that's what he is. Whenever he enters a room as Bruce, he was more or less the same as Batman. He should be more charismatic. But I think that they can fix that in sequel films. I think that's absolutely right, and I think that's some good point you have where the film is 95% Batman, right? Like, you see him in pretty much the suit consistently. You see him a little bit as Bruce, and the little bit we saw as Bruce is just literally him out of the costume. It's not a different character, right? But to be fair, to me, I think that was fine because I think there's, and now that they announced 2 other sequels, they need to develop him because in the beginning, like, what kind of caught me and made me real happy was that this was a Batman who got some shots hit at him, right? Like, he wasn't flawless in his martial arts, right? He wasn't flawless in his detective skills. So he has a lot of room to grow. So to me, as much as I consider that a flaw, I think that's okay if there's a trajectory of him at the end being the master detective, the master martial artist who, doesn't take a hit or whatever. Here, he took a ton of shots to the body, right? Like, actual gunshots.
Like, he was straight up tanking shotguns.
Yeah. So, overall, I think the way they portrayed him, he portrayed Batman himself, perfect. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed it. There's so many different depictions of Batman, where we've got, from the Joel Schumacher ones, from, oh God, what's his name? Ben Affleck.
Burton.
Like, in Burton. So it's just different ways to portray him, but I like this portrayal because it was the detective. It was the more methodical, thinking out loud. And again, early stages of it, but it's very different than what we've seen before, where, it's the more comic booky style. So I think Robert Pattinson is a very, very good Batman. I'm very happy about it. I kind of echo what Classy Taxes is saying, is like, I want him to grow a little bit when he becomes Bruce Wayne, but there's room for that to happen, so I'm not too scuffed about it.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Alex.
I was just gonna say, I just think that for the film, like, matching the Batman to the film that he is in, I think Robert Pattinson's the best live-action Batman that we've had in my lifetime. Nobody's gonna beat Adam West. Don't at me. But I watched every live-action Batman from 1989 to today. In preparation for this film, and I've come to the conclusion that I'm just not a fan of Batman in the live-action medium. The more real he gets, the harder it is for me to suspend my disbelief. Like, it is like Spider-Man swinging around. I have a harder time. I have an easier time with that separation of my disbelief for a film like that than I do where it tries to get super real and super gritty. I spent a large portion of the runtime going, Jim Gordon's a terrible cop. He should have put this guy in a straitjacket a long time ago, because the film is so real that it's absolutely ridiculous. Like, to me, like, when you think about it in the real world, like, some dude dressing up in a bat suit and going around and beating up criminals and stuff, it's psychotic. And the more real the films get, the harder it is for me to see the comic book element of the film. But I do think he is the best live-action Batman that we've had in my lifetime, when matching him to his world.
We're stuck in here.
Yeah.
Joker's in full control.
I mean, that's a fair point. I think, I can understand where that's coming from for sure. Where, like, I get what you're saying. Where, like, it's they want to go for realism, at the same time they also have a guy dressing up as a bat, right? Like, it's definitely like an interesting take, because for the most part, at least to me, it's like, I get they're trying to go for the story mainly as realism, but I still feel like they still have like a fantastical element in this movie, especially like with the character of Gotham, which we'll get to. But like, Gotham City, like, sure, it's like modeled after Jersey and mainly Times Square. Like, the way it's like, look how like down the shitter it is, like all the stuff that's happening with the stuff with like all the corruption and all that, and Gordon being basically the only good cop, or one of the only like good cops that we know of, for me, it kind of makes sense that at least that he would team up with Batman, because like if he knows a bunch of people are corrupt that he can't trust, it's like, you know, that's kind of like why I like the buddy cop element, where they can kind of trust each other mainly. But anyway, him as Batman, I agree. I think he's probably my favorite Batman ever. Just because in live action anyway, I feel because he's up there with Kevin Conroy for me, because he is very much a year two Batman. He's very inexperienced in certain things, and the character arc that he took in this movie was at least different and refreshing to me compared to just, oh, we saw his parents die, he went to go train for 10 years and he came back, you know. And that always kind of bothered me a little bit in terms of like story, like at least in Batman Begins. So it's like, oh, Bruce Wayne disappears for 10 years and then he comes back and then the Batman shows up a week later, you know what I mean? So it's like, or whatever. So I always had like an issue kind of with that, but like this, they explain that, you know, Alfred taught him, and he's kind of just, at least from what we know, he's kind of just been a recluse in his like cathedral of a house. So he's been in Gotham, just kind of been, you know, edgy and dark and depressed for like the past like 20 years. But overall, I really like that he doesn't say much. He does a lot of face acting. I like just seeing him being in the crime scene. The suit looks dope. His voice is really good too. It's like an aggressive whisper. This is what I like to call it, where it's like it's not too cartoony like Bale, where he has to be realistic.
You're lucky to be alive.
like for a normal conversation, like this Batman talks perfectly well. Like he can have a back and forth with Gordon. And the Bruce Wayne thing, I'll address it too. I agree that we need to see a dichotomy, right, between Bruce Wayne and the Batman. That's 100% valid. But I feel like that's fair, but also you gotta think about the next movie, or how they're doing the story, because this was even though it's not like in the terms of like seeing his parents die, this was a Batman / Bruce Wayne origin story. This was the way his character arc started and the way it ended with him becoming more than just a symbol of fear and vengeance. He became more than that. He became hope at the end, right? He learned through this character journey in the movie that he needed to become more than just vengeance, right? Because in the beginning of the movie, I mean, you guys saw like he beat up the group of people that were beating up that dude, and the dude was like, "Please don't hurt me," right? Like he wasn't like, "Oh my god, thank you." That's because like he definitely doesn't carry himself. He shows up, beats the crap out of people, and he doesn't even talk to like at least from what we saw that one interaction, he didn't really talk to the person.
I'll stay in contact.
But I love that he's not Bruce Wayne yet, because he doesn't have it all figured out, right? We'll get that, especially the way this movie ends. I think we'll get to that point where he will have that separate persona of a Bruce Wayne, right? And plus we've seen that a lot anyway already. Like we've seen that in the Burton films already, where he has a kind of playboy persona. We've seen that a lot in the Nolan trilogy. They kind of skip over a little bit, like really quickly, as soon as they go over the stuff in Begins, where you know he tries to kill Falcone, but then after that he disappears, right? And he learns all about the world, and he travels with, you know, whatever, and then he comes back to Gotham, and he's perfect, right? He's like, I have to have multiple personalities, right? I can't just be, you know, all brooding and blah blah blah. I have to go out, I have to socialize and do whatever. This is the first movie that does this, right? That does this idea of like Bruce Wayne isn't perfect yet, right? Like he doesn't have this whole thing down. So I personally love everything that they chose to do with this new iteration of Batman, while also keeping the fact that he still is Batman, even in his infancy. But yeah, those are my thoughts for him as Batman. But yeah, I mean, obviously, like, this is more so like just a general thing, but do you guys recommend people watch this movie? Like, especially for the runtime, the type of movie it is, like, I mean, I highly recommend you guys check it out.
These old gargoyles should be able to
I'll go, but before we do that, Alec, your volume needs to go up a little bit, they said.
My mic volume is up as much as I can. I turned down the game volume a little bit more.
Okay. Cool. Just making sure. Just saw that in the chat. So, do I recommend the movie? Absolutely. If you're a film fanatic, if you enjoy a different type. I mean, I'm old, so I like a little more adult, something a little different. Again, doesn't mean I don't dislike the MCU or the stuff they've done, but I want something different, and this is in that wheelhouse of different, right? The whole noir aesthetic and all that stuff, I would say just to experience it, just as a piece of, as a movie, a piece of art in the medium, absolutely. Only, again, the issue I have is, as I get a little older, my bladder's not holding out as long, so 3 hours is a little much. So, again, I don't think it's the worst thing. Like I said, they could tighten up a few things here and there, but overall, it's not the worst in the world. But for some people, like Gresh, he wants to see the movie, but he doesn't want to sit in the theater for 3 hours. And to each their own, right? So just be aware that it is a long one. There are a lot of like threads, story arcs that they mostly concluded. There's a few that they left out or I wasn't too satisfied with, but overall they done a pretty good job. But yeah, just recognize that it is a while. So.
Batman, you picking this up?
Oracle, I'm here.
Arkham Asylum just
What
vanished
about you,
from the
Alec?
network.
He's
Yeah,
in
Alec,
control
thoughts?
of the security system. He's
I mean-
probably isolated it from the grid.
That's not all he's done. All
I'm-
police beats are reporting he's placed
I keep
bombs
saying,
all
like,
over Gotham.
negative things, like, I didn't really enjoy it or whatever, but like the film itself, like the portrayal of the characters and everything, I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I'm just sorry, I'm really distracted.
I know.
I don't know.
Try the radio. Control should be able to shut down the gate.
I don't really have a in-depth thought on that right now, I
She
guess.
never was very bright.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so that's all good. All good. We can move on to the next thing. We can just kind of shotgun it from here, I guess, because there's a lot of stuff I'm sure we want to talk about. But we can start with this. Is like, do you guys think it's as dark as people like make it out to be in terms of like the tone and stuff? Like, I feel like people, even some reviews I've seen, have said like this movie's like dark, where they're just like,
She's as crazy as Joker.
like there's nothing at all like to deal with the movie. Like there's like no sense of humor, nothing. Like there's just really
There's
like
there's thematically appropriate humor in this movie. Like there's very dark humor, like the situation with the thumb drive. Like legitimately funny, but it was dark humor. So
I mean, I dare say the Penguin, like he had his dialogue and his demeanor was pretty funny, but not in like the completely laugh out loud kind of way. You know what I mean? That you're used to with other MCU movies. So again, it is dark in the sense that it is adult, and it's like the theme, like it's constantly raining. It's not a lot of light, like literally a little dark. You know what I mean? But I don't think of it as like completely overall depressing. I don't see anything like where there's no fun or like appropriate levity, as I think Alec mentioned. So it's hard because the thing is I feel like when all the other reviewers, they try to make a sharp turn to the other side because we're so used to comic book movies being represented by Marvel, and where they have humor which is actually like not appropriate for like what's happening. You know what I mean? It just comes out of left field and kind of takes you out of it. Here, I never was taken out of like the aesthetic because I bought in from the get-go. You know what I mean? They made the atmosphere and the setting good from the start. That even with the thumb drive, for example, or the Penguin saying his lines and whatnot. Yeah, it was funny, but it wasn't didn't take me out of the context, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you because like, I was watching and I was like, oh, this wasn't really like as like it's definitely dark and has a lot of thematic like, and the tone is overall dark. But I was just like, the jokes, like again, the thumb drive joke, like Alec mentioned, the entire character, the Penguin, is so hilarious, man. Like Colin Farrell, which is unrecognizable, by the way.
Yeah, I didn't even know it was him. Like I knew it was him, but then I was like, I can't like tell
You can't
it's him.
see him.
Especially, Well, more importantly, he has a very unique like accent. You know, like in his normal life, when he talks, it's very unique Irish accent, right? Or is that Irish? Whatever it is, it's like
Irish,
if I heard him, yeah, if I hear him talk, I know it's him. But here he played off that New York, New Jersey accent like really well. You know?
Yeah, I absolutely loved him, and I saw an interview with him and like the cast, and he was like, look, man, if you guys like the movie, you know, good, but if you guys like the movie, that wasn't even me. So you know, whatever, because like you know how like disappeared he looks, right? You didn't even tell. He's like, that wasn't even me. So like whatever, if you don't like it. But yeah, the whole, what was it, the difference between L and La. He was like, he's the worst, especially with the accent. He was like, oh, what do you like? You know, when they're interrogating him and whatever, and he's just like, that's the worst Spanish I ever heard. You know, like that. It's like they're really like just heavy, like super like New York Jersey accent. He's like, am I the only one that knows the difference between L and La? Like it's like stuff like that you were mentioning where it's not quippy jokes. It's more so what Alec was saying, where it's like thematic jokes. Like it's based on the tone, right? Like dry humor, especially even Batman, right? Like he was like, oh, you're looking for a USB port? And he was like, thumb drive, right? And then the thumb's attached to it. And even like the Riddler was kind of goofy and funny at points. But like again, Gordon was funny too. Like that dude, the whole sequence in the lockup when he was faking that they were that he was in his face. Like that whole part was so funny.
That whole cop chase was. All it kept running through my head was a Blues Brothers car chase scene, but with human bodies. And I laughed during the whole thing, not because like it was a ridiculous moment, just because that thought popped in my head. It literally looked like a Blues Brothers car chase scene with human bodies, just all trampling over each other trying to get to Batman.
Yeah, there were like 300 cops.
It was ridiculous. I loved it.
I mean, you can even tell, like, the precinct is massive. You saw, like, I mean, when he grappled upward, like 8 or 9 flights of, like, stairs. Again, that's one thing where I want to give a shout-out to the overall, like, set design and design of the movie. Because, like, they took a lot of care to make Gotham and all these environments feel, like, tangible and feel part of the story. And I really like that because, to me, Batman, I feel like to me in the Dark Knight trilogy, one thing that was missing, they had it in Batman Begins, like the way Gotham looked. But then after Begins into the Dark Knight, and even Rises, it felt really just like, it was like literally, Chicago? Like a normal-ass city. And I get the tone was Batman in a regular city, right, is what no one was going for. But I just felt like, to me anyway, I really like the fact that the cities felt like Gotham. And it's bro, Bruce's house like was like a cathedral, like with the like the dining room where they ate berries. I was like, bro, like this, like, is you live in a church? Like, everything felt gothic and like Batman. So I really appreciated that stuff. Really quickly, I want to address Turn 35's comment. He says, what I want to know is, why is it always raining in Gotham? So part of the whole aesthetic of the film is to bring you down emotionally. A cinematic choice is to have all exterior shots be raining because it's oppressive. Like, it puts the audience in a certain frame of mind. It's there strictly for atmosphere. And it works. Like the whole movie, it's raining. Like, straight up, it's literally not. The only time it's not raining is maybe daytime. Like, and it actually plays into the plot too. Like, the rain is important because of what happens at the end with the seawall. Yep. Oh, good.
I was gonna say at the ending shot, that wasn't raining, right? So it's kind of like a thematic thing of, if I remember correctly. So like, in the beginning, right? You like, again, go look up Wikipedia for Hero's Journey, but like in the beginning, he's like, I'm vengeance, right? And you see the aesthetic is dark and he strikes fear into the heart of everybody. But at the end, he's hopeful, right? and that is literally the design choice of making it rain all the time until the hero's journey ends, where he changes into hope, and it's sunny and not raining anymore. So it's like kind of like an aesthetic choice at that point to drive home that point.
Yep.
Yeah, like it's weird too, cause like this movie is 90% dark, like in nighttime and stuff. There's a couple moments in like dawn or like dusk or whatever, like when the sun's like coming up, and then when it's going down. There's a couple of shots like that, and obviously, like you said at the end of the movie too, where it's kind of like still really early morning time, or when they're airlifting the girl out. That's like the sun's like coming up, but I really liked it because the beginning part, like I guess what we can head into the story, or like story / positives and negatives. I like my favorite part was the intro, like the way the Riddler was there in that first intro scene was just like I remember when I first saw it on Tuesday, my entire theater like gasped because like it felt like a horror movie the way the movie starts, and then it doesn't stop feeling like that even with Batman, because I think like you said, like it was a narrative choice for it being all dark and raining, that when he's doing the narration, which I absolutely adored, I had a smile on my face when he was narrating, but like then you see the dude like that robbed the convenience store, and he looks into the shadows and the music starts swelling. I'm just like, he's like,
ow.
Oh, they think I'm in the shadows, and he's like, but I am the shadows. And I was like, my cinematic brain was just like, dude, this is like it, for me it was like that meme where like the dude was writing on the paper and it's flames. I was like, you could call it corny, you could call it edgy, I don't care. For Batman, I was like, this shit was cool, man. And it perfectly set that tone in the darkness of just like, yeah, Batman's like a threat, right? Like he's a much like he's like a monstrous presence. So, but yeah, that was like I guess my favorite. I guess not before story. Like that was probably my favorite moment. What are you guys like? Some of your favorite moments?
Honestly, my favorite moment is the scene with Alfred after the explosion.
That was a good one. Yeah.
For anybody who says this movie is just dark and dreary and lacks emotion, they clearly didn't watch that scene. There was more emotion on those two dudes' faces than in most of the movies that I've watched in the last 2 years. Like the level of acting in that one scene alone was probably the best of the entire film.
Yeah, it was really, that's a good dramatic moment to keep in. I'm trying to think, what's my favorite moment? There were a lot of good moments. I don't know. I think the entrance of the Batmobile is probably my favorite moment.
Yeah.
Mostly because, yeah, I think the biggest thing people don't understand is I'm a big music guy and I love sound. The sound design, and I saw it in a regular theater, not in IMAX, so I imagine it sounded better in IMAX. But the way, yeah, the way they like introduced the Batmobile with the sound, I was like I was totally hooked in. You know what I mean? And like I knew what was coming, but I was letting it like unravel before me, and that was like fantastic. So to me, just as an entrance point of view, like I really enjoyed the Batmobile.
Oh, dude, Noir, treat yourself. You can say screw 5'9" for an extra 3 hours one day. Watch it in IMAX. If you like the in just normal definition, I watched it both times in IMAX, and I might go see it in Dolby. Thank you, A-list. But I might see it in Dolby because the sound design for that scene, dude, my theater was like rumbling.
Yeah, the seat was shaking. IMAX was something else.
Dude, it was nuts, dude. Like when you hear like the beginning whine of it like starting up. Oh my god, my entire theater was like, oh shit. And then like it panned to the shot where like the engine is just like blasting off. Like, dude, the engine roar was like it was like bumping my heart. That's how loud and it was in the theater. So if you love the sound design in a normal definition noir, treat yourself to some IMAX because that shit was insane. But I agree with you. That's probably my second favorite. I just how everyone in the environment too. They just stop what they're doing. They're like, "What the hell was that?" And then you just see in the darkness and like you got the mufflers like spinning, right, like flaring up, and then you see the hood of the car light up red like a demon. I was like, "Yo, wait a minute!" I was like, "Okay." But yeah, it was. That's my second favorite moment, but that's a good scene. But yeah, I get anything. What are like in terms of like the story? What are some things that you guys liked? Some things you guys didn't like? If you want to go ahead, Nolar, or Alec, if you're ready, if you want to talk about it, but
go ahead, Nolar.
Go ahead, Alec.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you're probably in the easy spot to talk, right? So
yeah. So as far as the story itself was very well thought out. I really like the fact that it respected the audience's intelligence. All of the clues you needed were there, and if you figured it out, you figured it out. But it didn't go, oh, it's this and blah, 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 and this is how I figured it out. It was just, I mean, they kind of did that a little bit with the cipher at the beginning, but it wasn't like so on the nose like a lot of other like mystery movies are. Something I would say I didn't like because of how it made me feel in the movie were the two scenes through the actual vision of characters. Right at the beginning of the film, there's the Riddler scene, and he's breathing, and you have that breathing, and he's just like watching those people through binoculars or whatever. It made me uncomfortable, which means it's a really good scene because it did what it was supposed to do. It was supposed to make you uncomfortable. The flip side of that, when we have it from Batman's perspective, it made me uncomfortable because it felt pretty creeper because he was watching Selena Kyle get undressed or whatever. But those two scenes are probably my least favorite scenes in the movie because of how they made me feel, how I reacted to them. But that just tells me that they're actually good scenes.
That's fair.
The stuff that I really enjoyed was the dynamic between Alfred and Bruce, or Batman in this case. I personally really enjoy it because I think, what's his name? Who's the actor?
Andy Serkis
plays it. Yeah, I mean he's a very good actor, and based on Venom, Let There Be Carnage, pretty decent director, you know. But I really enjoyed the way, especially like you said, the scene in the hospital, right when they're right after the explosion, when they're having the dramatic moment. Really well done. The thing I didn't like that the most was I felt like Riddler at times, not all the time, was a little too out of pocket. You know what I mean? Just a little too flamboyant out there. Paul Dano's a fantastic actor, and I'm sure that's like he either channeled that or Matt Reeves told him to go that direction. But I just felt like it felt a little different, weird. You know what I mean? Just towards the end when he's just going off like screaming, yelling inside the cage, the asylum. I just didn't feel right. So that's the one thing that might have changed. But again, it's a choice they made, and I'm not gonna fault them for it. It just didn't work for me, you know. But overall, I think the story was pretty well done. Like, again, felt a little long because I see the dots. Like I gotta see that. I only saw it once, so I need to see it a second time because there's like obviously something that like one domino falls and the next domino falls, and you know what I mean. Like it makes sense, but at the same time, like they could have tightened stuff up. Like I think the Selena Kyle stuff, Catwoman, I see why they did it, but there's also a thing of like maybe they could have like shortened that down a little bit, you know, so the runtime wouldn't be that long. Because I felt like that never took me out of it. But that's what I mean by the pacing felt a little slow, where I felt the time because I enjoyed the interaction between Zoe Kravitz and like her acting was good, the chemistry's there, but the story didn't really feel like it was absolutely necessary. You know what I mean? So that's where I feel like they could have tightened it up a bit.
Alcohol from Frank's bourbon in the atmosphere.
Gotcha. I mean, to both your points, I can definitely see that. I feel like I would agree someone with the Selena Kyle thing more. But at the same time, when I'm thinking about the bigger picture of the movie, I feel
Yeah, you feel like you kind of need it, right? You know what I mean? Like, I don't
yeah.
know. It's
like-
like you could see yourself taking it out, but at the same time, if you didn't, it would be okay, and like that's how it is. But I don't know. I gotta maybe watch it a second time, and you've seen it at least twice, right?
Yeah, I've seen it twice. So the second time I didn't feel like I felt better because I had this one dude behind us in the preview screening that was just being annoying. That ruined my like experience. Like literally, people clapping at the end of the movie because they thought it was good. This guy was like, "Oh, these shills." And I was like, "Oh my god, dude, come on, really? Why are you here on an early like fan screen? You like should go somewhere." Anyway, but second time around, I didn't have that. Overall, I like the Selena stuff. I think they could have condensed or maybe even just rewrote some stuff. But they were going for I think some recent. I think they in the comics they recently made it that Falcone was like her father or Falcone, however you want to pronounce it.
You're right.
So I felt like it was good for her character because that was her story. And her story is interesting and it is engaging. I think to me. And again, I feel like it all worked because the point of the movie, at least the way I saw it, was the Batman, like he said at the end with the narration, he had an impact in Gotham, but not the one he intended, right? Which was that he basically created the Riddler. Which is a topic that a lot of Batman fans or comic fans like always say. It's like or even argue, especially in Dark Knight Returns. They even address it in the comic, where like when Batman's gone, like the Joker was like catatonic or whatever, right? Like he was like he doesn't move, he doesn't do anything. Batman shows up again, Joker's running around again, right? So they do touch on the fact that Batman existing kind of inherently does create some of these problems, but it's also like a question: does the good outweigh the bad, right? So like I like that the message overall of the movie fit everything and makes everything to me feel logical and makes sense because that was all part of the Batman's journey. Because you can argue a lot of like the Batman movies don't really take a deep dive into Bruce's character except like Batman Begins, you want to say?
Yep,
Like,
that's the only one I can think of.
Because 89 Batman focuses a lot more on the Joker, or Jack Napier, right? Their version of Joker. It's pretty much his origin story. Dark Knight focuses, again, more so on Joker. And Batman's kind of just like reacting a lot to a lot of what Joker does. I'm not saying the movie's bad, of course, but I'm just saying those movies don't focus on the Batman, right?
Right.
But this movie had a lot to do with the idea of Batman, what he means to good people and bad people, and the fact that he had to change how people saw him, especially the normal civilians of Gotham, to be something more than just vengeance. Especially with the dude, like you mentioned earlier, Nolar, was a dude saying, "I'm vengeance." He was like, "Oh shit, this is my impact." Like, you know, these dudes are like about to destroy Gotham because of me. So a lot of these things, like I feel like they kind of bleed into each other, and like it all serves the general story that the movie was going for. So for me personally, I felt like nothing really felt like it was dragged or out of place. Because even there are times like where they have voyeuristic shots of like just the city or something. It's just I felt like I was like, man, this movie just looks pretty. I was just appreciating it, right? I was just like, damn. I was like, damn, this is a good looking movie. And then for negatives, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty, like I said, I'm pretty much the only one here that I would probably feel like I don't have any negatives personally. I guess I will say one thing that was a bit, I want to, again, kind of forced, but I did see an interview with Matt Reeves that kind of mellowed it out for me, which was the Joker, right? At the end.
Yeah.
I thought that was a little forced. But at the same time, again, I'll give my piece and then you guys can tell me how you guys feel about the Joker scene. But Apparently, Matt Reeves in interviews confirmed that there was gonna be a different or another scene with I think it's Barry Keoghan, one of the Eternals. He's a good actor, and I think he has a good face for the Joker too. And I like his voice and laugh. But apparently, there was another scene where Batman goes to talk to him because Batman has already encountered the Joker before. I guess basically before he's officially the Joker.
Yep.
And he was going to ask him about the interview, or he was going to interview him about how to deal with like this, psycho killer, right? To get insight on the mind of this person that's going around killing all these, people in power. But they cut it out the movie for pacing, and I can see why. But the way Matt Reeves described it too is that he basically said Joker is not a person that has scars like the Dark Knight. He's not a person that has just like he didn't found a vat of acid. I think he said that they're going for the man who laughs kind of way where he just laughs like a lot, like he can't control like his laugh or or he's always smiling and stuff. Like as a disease, so he kind of just warped his mind and twisted him to the point where he's a psycho, right?
Right.
So that's just like the context of the director saying that, but as a movie, like an isolated movie scene, I did feel that was probably my only scene that I was like Joker, like that quick, man. Like I was like thinking maybe like someone else or not even another villain in there maybe, but I was like maybe they could have put like Victor's like a random throwaway villain in there like Victor Zsasz or something. But yeah, I was like that was my only like quote unquote nitpick was just like they could have maybe done without the Joker cameo thing, but it does lead into an interesting thought of like they could lead into like a Joker Riddler team up movie, which would be kind of interesting. Rather than just a Joker solo villain thing, but yeah, let me know what you guys think about that Joker scene because I felt like that was the only one that I felt was forced.
I mean, initially, like Max CTB here says, "Oh, his face was so distorted. I thought that was Two-Face." I thought that first when I just saw it, but then I hear the laugh and I hear the context of what he's saying, and it dawned on me, okay, it's not Two-Face. It's actually the Joker.
Yeah.
And again, I agree with you. I didn't know about the context that was supposed to be another scene that kind of fleshes it out a little bit, but they cut that out for pacing, and then of course they left that in. So it felt like when I was watching it at the end of that scene, I was like, "Did we need that? I don't know if we needed that." Right?
Yeah.
It felt like to me until you told me like the context, it felt like WB, the suits over there, were like, "Hey, I need you to make sure we have something else continuing going, and let's just keep it as Joker." You know what I mean? It felt like it was just shoehorned in there at the behest of the executives. But given more context, that's fine. But that doesn't change the fact that maybe they should have got rid of it, like completely cut him out. You know what I mean? But
yeah, or a minimum like, because the thing is, this movie doesn't have a post-credit scene, right? So that could by
like
doing
that scene felt like a post-credit scene to me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. I was like, the movie basically like fixed the no and like post-credit scene by having the scene in the movie, basically, right?
Yeah.
Which is fine. Like once I heard that there was no post-credit scene, and then we can blame Marvel for that for always sticking around. To like stuff, but yeah, I completely agree with you. Like it wasn't something that was I felt like the post-credit scene.
Yeah, I was gonna say like as much as it's become expected that there's a post-credit scene, only the good thing about having post-credit scenes is really for the audience to stick around and look through the credits to see, the people behind making the movie, right? Because like when I've gone to SAG screenings, when I've gone to like premieres and stuff like that, everyone sticks around to watch the credits because everyone's in the industry. They want to see who's done what, and they like want to pat each other on the back, kind of thing, right? It's fine. Yeah. But obviously it's an industry thing, so people are going to do that. But like what I find interesting is now everyone does it because. Not because they want to make sure that people they get to see who's credited, but it's more like I want to see there's something else going on. So it's a nice side effect of like you get to recognize who the cinematographer is. Maybe only 1% of the people get to recognize it, but that's 1% more than there were before, right? So anyways, I just want to throw that out there. Anyway, your thoughts? You thought it was just a post-credit scene there, Alec?
I mean, it felt like it could have been like they could have ended the movie
And then put that in the end.
Yeah, like they could have ended the movie on the shot of Batman looking up at the helicopter going away. It rolled credits, like the initial credits, and then dropped that as a post-credit scene. And I think it would have felt more in place if it was taken out of the movie and made a post-credit scene.
Got it.
Yeah, I actually think that would have been a good point to end the movie too. Like I like the way it ends. Like I like especially with the chemistry and romance between Selena and Batman. I think it was nice that we got like that was like the finish to her arc, right? Like she has nothing else left there essentially. They name drop Bloodhaven, so hopefully Robert Pattinson has mentioned, they're gonna get a Robin. I would love that because I hate the fact that people think that Robin can't be like in a real movie, like, which is why they have these. This is why it pisses me off in The Dark Knight Rises, because I love Joseph Gordon-Levitt, but the ending was like such bullshit because it's like, why don't you keep your real name? And it's like real name is like Robin. And I was like, bro. And then he goes to like the Batcave, whatever, and like, are you gonna become Batman or like what? Like, who the hell's gonna train you if Bruce like is either dead, or if you want to go with the ending is we're just chilling with Catwoman, like what, like. So it's like, I always thought that was weird. Like, just if you're gonna do Robin, just do Robin. Like, just like I really hate when movies try and do something and then just like either again because maybe it fits their tone, but it's like his name wasn't even like Richard Grayson or nothing. It was just like something else, and his name was Robin. So I thought that was just stupid. But anyway, yeah, it'll be cool if we get a Robin. I think that would be sweet. But yeah, go ahead.
I have a question for you guys. I mean, we don't have it here on the thing, but score. What did you guys think of the music in the movie?
Fantastic to me. I loved it.
Okay.
I like what was it Giacchino? Is that how you say his name?
Michael Giacchino.
I like what he did with Batman's theme and Catwoman's theme. And then the use of the Nirvana music was really thematically appropriate to the film. I think Matt Reeves did a really good job, like channeling Kurt Cobain into Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't feel like any individual piece of music was really out of place. I do like the use of Ave Maria several times, and they actually Giacchino used a minor chord variation of Ave Maria as part of Riddler's theme, so it works through the whole movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It really elevated those scenes. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I only bring it up because this I didn't feel like anything was out of place, which unfortunately a good chunk of movies these days, they don't have the right, like the tone isn't right, you know what I mean? Like the music choice or the composition doesn't fit the scene. But here, like the fact that nothing stood out terribly was a good sign that everything worked perfectly, you know what I mean? So again, half the time the music choice is just so odd, it just like takes me out of the movie, but here kind of enhanced it for me, where it was like, oh crap, yeah, like the Ave Maria stuff really like hit harder because it was appropriately done, you know what I mean? So it made, yeah, like what Tristone was saying here, score elevated the highs and it felt epic, complimenting every scene. So I have to just make that note because that doesn't happen very often, unfortunately, at least to me.
Yeah, like especially again, I'll go back to my favorite scene, the intro sequence, dude. The way like I think after the Riddler part, and by what I mean by intro, I mean I do include the Riddler part, but I adore the narration sequence and like him, like, you know, you can see him putting on the the makeup, putting on the suit, and then you see even like the first shot is like of that sequence was like with the light bulb like heating up, right, from the bat signal.
Yep.
just the way that starts, and like you hear like the theme rising, getting like orchestral, kind of getting like a horror movie vibe too. Like when the dude looked in the shadows, you got like those really harsh like what are they called, like strings, like from like you can like Insidious or something. And I was like, damn, dude, like I'm afraid of the shadows though. Like that shit looks scary. The way like the dude was just looking at like nothing, and in his mind he's like, I think Batman's in there. I'm not going that way. Or like when the spray can rolled into the darkness too.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go grab it now.
Yeah, like he's just like, yeah, let's like $5. I mean, it was empty anyway, right? Whatever. The city sucks anyway. It's fine if I litter a little bit. But yeah, just like how impactful the score was in that sequence too, and his overall theme, the bum 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 bum, like it's simple. But like it just like fits, because I feel like this is one of the only Batmans. Like I would probably give Affleck a little bit too of like this, but this is like the only Batman where I see him like a live action one, I'm like genuinely like terrified. Like the way they set him up, the way he felt like Michael Myers or like the Terminator, or like how heavy his footsteps were, like in the shadows when he showed up at the beginning. I was like, or anytime he's walking in a room, you just hear those big ass combat boots, and you're just like, damn, it's like a presence in here, right? Like I just absolutely love that. And the music adding on so much to that too.
Dude, that opening sequence, like the first couple of minutes during the narration, where you know, like you were talking about this criminal with the spray can and the drop head that tried to robbed the convenience store or whatever. Their reactions to the darkness inside Gotham, just that is who Batman has always been depicted as in the comic books. But somehow he's not scary enough to just make people not commit crimes. But they're scared enough of him while they're committing them, but not scared enough to like actually stop being stupid.
Yeah, it's like I say, like as if like they're just getting that high, right? They don't really think about it, and then they realize that's why when they saw that, because they make it a point that they see the bat signal first, and then they're like, oh, he's out there now. Like, you know, it's like he's like, I mean, the narration says, he goes like, it's not just a signal, and it's a warning. And dude, the narration, like I said, dude, as edgy, as corny you want to make it, I don't care, man. I ate that shit up. They think I'm in the shadows, but I am the shadows. And I was like, like, love that. Love, like, icing on the cake for that whole sequence. I guess, yeah, we can move on a little bit, because we don't really talk about the fight scenes. Someone's bringing it up now, actually, which is a good thing to mention. Yeah. How would you rate the fight sequences compared to, say, for example, Batman Warehouse, and BVS? I'll go first on this one. I think it's just a different style. You can't really compare them.
Yep.
Because like Snyder, while he does really do, like I'll give him his stuff. I have my critiques of a lot of his stuff, but I really like it's very different. This is obviously a Batman in BVS that's like way seasoned, right? And obviously, he's more vicious, and Snyder does have a lot of style with fighting, so he definitely probably was a little bit better and stuff, but it's definitely more comic booky, right, and less believable, like how crazy he's like going around. But in this one, it's more realistic, right? Like more, again, grounded. He's not, and the difference also too is like this Batman wasn't trained by like Ra's al Ghul or like the League of Shadows, or like he didn't like travel abroad, at least that we know of. He didn't travel abroad to like study every other martial arts, right, and under different masters. Alfred gives the one like drop that I could teach you how to fight, but what you needed was a father. So he was obviously trained like how to fight really, really well, but he's not like a master ninja yet, right? Like or like a master of his movements. He's someone that knows how to kick ass, essentially. But he's not like the perfect like martial artist that we know of yet. So I just thought the fights were visceral, real, and I think I had enough action for me in the movie. I think there was enough to keep me interested with all the investigations going around.
I think
What about you?
the combat
Go out.
In the film is good, but just like a lot of other things about this movie, this is not a comic book film. This isn't your standard, superhero fare. This, you could literally take every DC character out of this film and replace Batman with, Detective John Walsh or something, and basically have the exact same story. This is first and foremost a crime thriller. Secondly, it just has the trappings of a comic book story. Like, it's not a comic book film. This is more old style Hollywood filmmaking than it is new style superhero movie.
Well, I feel like there's a difference, right? I feel like I would say it's a comic book film, but it's not a superhero blockbuster is what I would call it, a difference. Because it definitely is. There are, especially with Batman, there are a bunch of comics like this, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm just saying it's not your typical comic book movie.
Typical, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much a film noir detective thriller, and like, if you took the Batman away from that, if you took those elements out, you could still tell this story with other characters and it would still work, I think. But that's not a strike against the film. That's exactly what the comic book movie industry needs. They need to make a movie that's a good movie first. And, for the most part, Matt Reeves got that here. Like, for me, it's a runtime thing, and the fact that I'm just generally not a film noir fan, that kind of took me out of it. But I recognize that this is a good movie. It just wasn't my flavor of film.
Yeah. So I would, the only thing I would counter to that would just be like, I don't think if you take, like, I get what you're saying in terms of like the bare bones story, yeah. But I think because of the way Riddler and Batman are intertwined with each other, I feel like it would still have to be something where it's like at least a vigilante or some shit, right? Or something, right? Like it'll be more so like a comic book or new IP like hero character or something. But I just feel like the way each character's like storyline is interweaved with each other, I feel like it'd be, if you take out Batman and just put like a normal detective, it would be a little different, right? Because the whole point is just that, at least to me, is like that Riddler. It comes out because of Batman, and also because Batman's doing this because of how corrupt and he can't even trust the cops except Gordon, right? So he's taking the laws and stuff into his own hands. So it's like, you can have this type of thing, but I feel like it would still require like a vigilante, right, quote unquote.
Well, I mean, you could just have like the one good cop versus the dirty precinct type story, but I mean, essentially the elements can be all still the same, just without any of the Batman trappings, and it would still be a good standalone film.
That's fair. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, hold on. We were talking about the fighting, right? I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
Initially.
Yeah. The fighting.
I think the action scenes were great. There weren't a lot, right? Again, as Alex said, this isn't your traditional blockbuster comic book movie, and that's fine. And again, I mentioned that I like the fact that he was taking hits. He was taking shotgun blasts to the chest and whatever, because again, they felt more real to me. Where, he's vulnerable. He's never invincible, where he wouldn't take any damage. Like, yeah, he got hurt, especially that last ending fight sequence, right? Like, that made that more tense and more visceral. And the only reason why that happened is because they established earlier in all the other fight scenes that he is a little vulnerable, right? So to me, that was really good. And there weren't a ton of fight scenes, but I think where they had them was great to just give a little more pacing. The one thing I think none of us mentioned was the car chase sequence, right? I don't think we all talked about that, but I really like that car chase sequence, especially because, again, the beginning intro sequence of the Batmobile was fantastic, and then just led into that, right? So, in terms of like action, it was there. Was it like over the top, like the Batman versus Superman? The only difference between that is that Batman was like visceral and just waiting to destroy people left and right. and like as cool as that was, because we never really saw that before, I'm a little more keen, especially on like the early development phase of the current Batman we have with Robert Pattinson.
Oh, dude. Like I guess we can lead into like one of the more final topics. Like, yeah, because I was saving the Batmobile stuff because like I wanted to talk about like cinematography, and I feel like the Batmobile sequence is like one of the best, if not just the best, car chase sequences, and like maybe compared to like the other Batman movies. I think I do really like the Dark Knight chase. That one's really really good. With Joker in the big semi and everything. That one's still fantastic, but yeah, the intro with that, and then like, dude, the cinematography for this movie in general was crazy with all these like beautiful shots and kind of like these sometimes like, especially like when he talked to Penguin, there was like a in the club like this like kind of dream kind of lens where like part of like the lens was like blurred but like not the middle. Has like this really interesting flavor to the movie. You can see everything. It was all shot interestingly and beautifully. The colors and everything were so great, especially the Fight Club sequence, like fighting in like the red and blacks and all that stuff was really cool. But then the damn car chase scene happened. They're like, okay, here's a locked off shot on the back by the jet engine. Here's a locked off shot in the bottom right tire. Here's a locked off shot on the bottom left tire. Here's a locked off shot on the bottom left part of the bumper. In the back, and then here's a locked off shot on Penguin's car. Like, dude, they went crazy with the amount of different shots they had in that chase. Dude, yeah, like Dragonson said, when he crashed into Penguin's car and made him flip, and the way that the Batmobile drifts to a stop from that angle, and you just see the car flipping, and then I was like, man, that's such like the cinematography and that Batmobile chase in general was just out of this world to me. Well, I guess I don't know if you guys want to talk about any favorite shots, but yeah, what do you guys think about like the cinematography and stuff like that overall?
Yeah, I'll go here. I thoroughly enjoyed the cinematography, mostly because there were a lot of like lingering shots, but what they did was they did a lot of like focus changing. So like you'll have a foreground shot or someone in the foreground, something like a flower in the background, for example. So the focus is on the foreground. They kept the shot there and then switched the focus to the background, right? And I like that because that makes you pay attention to like what's actually going on in the shot itself. Like it kind of like forces you because that's what it's doing. And I like that because it really like flesh out the scene, but also gives me an idea of like, okay, I am trying to interpret what the director, what the cinematographer is trying to convey here. It leaves the interpretation up to me to figure it out. And I like that kind of stuff, right? So I enjoyed the look of it. Again, it's got the whole dark, gritty, so the color grading is supposed to be a little bit darker. But then at the end, when he becomes Hope, like narratively speaking, symbolically, the gradient turns up a bit. So overall, I was a huge fan, and I think like this movie for next year's Oscars, we'll have some nominations for like technical stuff, right? Sound design, like we said, we talked about the Batmobile itself. But I think like cinematography might be up there. Assuming there aren't like 5-6 other movies that are just like out of this world on cinematography level, right? I mean, I think it deserves to be up for some technical awards for sure. So yeah, those are my two thoughts, or those are my thoughts on the cinematography as a whole.
There's a high chance it will get nominated for some stuff because on AMC, like when you buy tickets for it, it is labeled the AMC Artisan film, which is like, I guess their fancy talk for like, this is a more, I think the way they describe like artisan films is like a more director driven art, like, you know, piece kind of film. So I think the only other movie was the Joke, like the Joaquin Phoenix Joker, that was labeled an artisan film.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, so there is actually a really high chance you're on the money that they're gonna get nominated for some stuff for this movie. But what about you, Alex?
Just say again that makes the assumption there aren't like 7-8 other like better technical,
sure.
Right? That's the assumption. But yeah, other than that, I think it looks great. So, Alec, your thoughts on the cinematography?
I mean, it's good. Again, very film noir, which, as I've said, not my cup of tea. But I recognize the elements that go into it, and Matt Reeves and whoever the DP was for this, I don't know who that was.
Brad
But,
Fraser.
yeah, they
Doom.
had just an amazing eye for shots in this film. Like every shot, I can't think of any moment in the film where I was like, man, they could have cleaned up the visuals here. Like in any way, shape, or form, because like the whole thing, the tone of it, it's all basically perfect.
The wall ahead is weak enough for my explosive gel to blow through.
Alrighty, and with that, we'll lead into the final thing before our questions, which is any thoughts on the major characters? I feel we really talked about Batman. We've kind of knocked it out of the park already. Characters like Jim Gordon, we briefly touched on how good he was. Catwoman, Riddler, Penguin. Even Carmine, we haven't really talked about Falcone at all, played by John Turturro. I guess I'll go first, leading off. I think every character was like every actor that played each of these characters they were all phenomenal. Not a single one was like bad or corny. The only one that's not even a major character that was kind of funny was like the police chief with the, you know what, I'm talking here like this, like the like his but it's like he's from, if they're going for obviously like that Jersey, New York style. Because I've heard people talk like that, like, you know, wise guy, like, you know, that kind of like really nasally whatever voice. But it was funny. Jeffrey Wright was fantastic as Jim Gordon. Probably, I really love Gary Oldman, but I would probably put Jeffrey Wright up there with him, just because I felt like this Gordon had more to do, right? Like Gary Oldman's Gordon is really well played, but I feel like he's not really a main character, right? Which is, again, he's not really supposed to be, but for their story. But this Gordon was definitely like the second main character, right, next to Batman. It was a buddy cop movie.
Yep.
But he played him really well. It was really funny, very energetic. Catwoman, Zoe Kravitz killed it too as well. The only thing I wasn't a fan of was her mask, but I'm assuming they'll fix it later, like in a different movie, because she's not really a cat burglar, right? That's not her story in the movie, so it makes sense. She just has good skills. Riddler, that's one we haven't even talked about. Paul Dano, I really liked his performance, and he's a really terrifying villain for like what they're going for, and I really liked him. Does he get a bit cartoony at the end and starts going a little crazy? Yeah, but I feel like that's what makes him still feel like the Riddler to me, right? Where like he kind of is unhinged at the fact that Bruce was like, or you know, Batman was like,
I'll be back.
Basically crushed his dreams, right? Because he thought Batman was his ally for the entire movie. And he basically, his whole world shattered when Batman was like, "You're crazy. You're gonna die alone, and you're a psychopath. This and that." So I can kind of get why he broke down. So it's not literally like a negative. It was a bit cartoony, but I think it worked because this guy's. I mean, we know the Riddler's a psychopath and he's crazy. So, but his performance was just fantastic. Penguin, fantastic. And Falcone, I don't see much movies with John Turturro. I've only seen the Transformer movies, and I've always liked him in those movies because I always thought he was like hilarious in those Transformer movies, even though they're garbage. But I always thought he was funny, and he always brought a lot. He killed it for like being a serious mob boss type character. I thought he knocked it out of the park. Just being like this, because he kind of had this calm demeanor and like danger to him, right? Like, I don't know, like he definitely felt dangerous, right? Like, even if he wasn't like a big burly mob boss, he just had this like presence. But I really liked his performance as Falcone. I guess either you know Laura.
Yeah, if we're talking about characters or the performances, I think all the performances were well cast and all the actors and actresses were well cast, and of course they killed it on the performances, right? Robert Pattinson, nothing else to say. Jeffrey Wright as Jim Gordon. I knew he would be good. I didn't know how good he would be. You know what I mean? By watching the movie, I think he's great. And of course, we still have to talk about the spin-off series. He's getting his own on the the what is it, the Gotham PD show spinoff. So we'll talk about that. But I think they greenlight that solely based on his performance, like how strong he was here. And same thing with the Penguin. He's getting his own show, if I remember right. So
Yeah, Penguin is good.
yeah, Colin Farrell was fantastic. I know he's always a great actor, but the thing is, you just couldn't even tell it was literally Colin Farrell. So, and then Paul Dano, outside of he was in There Will Be Blood, right? Beside what's his name? The guy who played Lincoln.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis won the Oscar for that, right?
And
If
There Will Be
Daniel
Blood, yeah.
Day-Lewis was, yeah, if he wasn't in that movie, Paul Dano probably would have won the Oscar for that movie, right? Like, he's that good. Again, this is where you and I disagree a little bit, because I felt like you think it's appropriate, and I see your reasoning. It just took me out of the movie. That's all I'm saying, is like it just didn't feel like, it took me out of the seriousness, right? So there's that. But everyone else, like, you know, Andy Serkis as Alfred, everybody here was fantastic. So I had no issues or qualms with the cast and how they performed. I think they were really, really good. And I don't know if it's good enough to be, you know, Oscar nominated. We'll see what the rest of the year brings us. But they were good enough they could be in that conversation, right?
I would say, yeah.
Alec?
Yeah. Again, my favorite performance of the film is Colin Farrell as the Penguin. Like, that character completely stole every
killed
scene
it.
he was in.
Yeah.
I want a Batman Penguin face-off movie. I really do. I just want them to just go at each other. I think it'd be awesome. Verbally, he spars really well, like Penguin does with anybody that he's on screen with. I really love the characterization of him. Robert Pattinson, like I said, he's probably the best live-action Batman of my lifetime. Zoe Kravitz did good with what she was given. I felt that there could have been a bigger role for her, but I understand why there wasn't. And then I can't say anything more about Gordon than what you guys already said. I think Paul Dano, for me, was the worst performance in the film. Just because he felt too psychotic to me. Like, I know that they were basing him off the Zodiac Killer and all that stuff, but it just felt a little too psychotic, you know?
I see it.
Okay.
But that's about it.
Fair enough.
You know, as far as just the direction they took the character, maybe I just don't agree with that. I mean, he performed it well, but I just didn't like what they did with it.
That's fair. I feel like I get what you're saying. It's more so not even just his performance, just as how they portrayed the Riddler in general.
Yeah, definitely my least favorite character in the film.
Okay, that's fair, because I mean, like I said, one thing I will get, like, my only criticism again, which is I still think this movie's basically perfect. More so just like a couple nitpicks, really. Like, and I would agree that the Riddler outfit is okay. I know what they're going for like especially for the ending of the movie. I thought it was okay. But it wasn't something where I was like, I didn't want to. For clarity, I do not want to see like him with like bright green and like question marks all over his body and stuff. You know, like it was fine, right? I think they could have. I know they were going for Zodiac Killer, which is fine. And the fact that he was a streamer was kind of funny. Again, another unintentionally funny moment was when they got the final video and he's just like, "Hey guys," like thank you guys for all your support. I thought that part was funny. But yeah, I really liked this version of the Riddler, and I feel like we'll get the more quote unquote comic book accurate Riddler moving forward, because I think Paul Dano has the makings to be even greater, because I do think his performance still was great. He was unnerving. He was, at least to me, one thing in particular, he reminded me a lot of like Michael Myers almost in some like scenes, especially if you guys remember the 78 movie, and when he was in the car waiting for the dude, and like the dude hops in.
Yep.
And like the windows are all fogged up, and he wipes and then he knocks the dude out, right, or whatever. that reminded me so much of the scene in the original Halloween. So I think he had a lot of elements that worked for me personally, but I definitely can see why. Like he's not like he wouldn't like if it's too different, right? For some people, so I get it. That's fair. Guess if all that makes sense, we can hop into the viewer questions. I believe Alec, we only have these 4 that you gave me, and then aside from Twitch, right?
Yeah, we got the 4 that we got from Twitter, and
then we can talk with chat a little bit. So, all right. The first question is from Soul Calibur 08. Do you guys think that it was Venom or adrenaline he took at the end to help him? I've seen people say adrenaline can be green, but it would be a nice hint to Bane.
I hate the stink of hospitals.
What do you think, Alec?
I think it was adrenaline. I don't think we are in a place yet where Matt Reeves is ready to put that kind of fantastical element into his world. I mean, it's so very grounded that I don't feel Venom would be appropriate.
I think it's weird. At least the way I see his world is like, it's really grounded, but like also still fantastical. Cause like, one thing that was hilarious was the wingsuit scene, which was shot really well. And I thought it was really cool. But the one that was the one scene that I was like, all right, that's a little comic booky, because he like. The parachute got tugged on the thing, and he like smacked the top part of the bridge and then smacked like 3 different cars, and he just got up. You know what I mean? So like the movie definitely still has those, like kind of use like traps or like comic book isms, right? But yeah, I personally thought, initially I was like, oh shit, it's green. Is that Venom? For sure. But after seeing it, I'm like, okay, he just had, because he even has a specific spot for it, right? Like he has like a little port in his teeth.
Nope.
Oh, Alec, you were getting destroyed.
Yeah. I screwed that up.
I just thought it was normal adrenaline, because Venom alters your body too, at least from comics, right? It makes him like whatever. And like I feel like he would have killed the dude. Like he just got up, and I feel like people like I think Vigilman said like the way he was acting. I just think that's more so the fact that he just got shotgun blasted, and he just like. Use all that power and adrenaline to like roar up, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think, Nola?
I'm thinking adrenaline, but at the same time, maybe like I could see justifications for Venom, but I think it's more of adrenaline, just straight up, like you said, get up, go through it. But the justification for Venom, because he almost practically killed that guy at the end, right? Like just beat the hell out of him. So it could go either way. I could see that. But I personally think it's adrenaline.
Alright, next question. This is by Corbles, at Corbles. How did you guys feel about the direction the film took the Riddler? Kind of addressed this a little bit. I am still kind of not a fan of it, as his motivations are a lot more bizarre to me than what I am used to. I feel like we kind of addressed that already, but like more address like this last part of the question where you're saying of what you're used to. I think that's perfectly fine. I think everyone has like a version of a character in their mind.
Yep.
For some people, it's like Jim Carrey, right? Like they can't unsee Jim Carrey as the Riddler, right? If they love him that much. Which, to be fair, he was great. But I feel like for me, the story, the way it worked, I think it makes sense for him. What do you guys think?
Okay, well, Alex going through his paces there. Again, I thought the motivations for him were okay. Again, this is like adapted to modern day-ish, right? Because you got the whole streamer thing and all that kind of stuff. So you got to kind of wrap the context of what you think of the Riddler in that sense, so you can really get his point of view of what they're trying to do. So for like motivation-wise, I thought it was okay. And again, not everything's going to go comic book accurate or another portrayal accurate. You got to judge what they are trying to do based on. You got to judge what they're doing based on what they're trying to do, right? Like the purpose of it. So to me, it was okay. Whether you liked it or not, that's completely up to you, right? That's everyone's opinion, and you're more than welcome to say yes or no to that. But To me, it worked pretty well in terms of his motivations. Again, it's the performance of how he did that. If he performed it differently, I would have bought that a lot better, or I would have been more into it compared to, compared to like what Geek did, right? Like you bought into it completely, more or less. So that's the only difference. So, Alec, your thoughts on the Riddler and motivations?
I mean, since I understand where they're coming from, I think they did well with the character. I've always liked the Riddler as a character who's an evil genius, not necessarily a psychopath. And there were a lot of psychopathic tendencies on this version of the character that I wasn't a huge fan of.
I feel like I get that, but I feel like he's always been like a psychopath, right? Like, I mean, that's like, because like, I mean, you have to be a certain level to like.
Well, yeah.
Even in the Arkham games, like
he's less. I don't know. Maybe because my take on. I pushed the wrong button. My take on the Riddler comes from Batman the Animated Series, where he feels more collected. He feels more like evil genius instead of crazed criminal. And I think this version of Riddler leans a little more towards crazed criminal.
That's fair.
The room's clear.
I think we'll get that. Again, just giving some faith, at least to me, like in my opinion, for like the movie like series, if he does return, which I hope they do. I'm tired of movies having a one and done villain. It'll be cool if they come back. If the Riddler comes back, I feel like he will be a little bit more collected, right? Like hopefully, but yeah, he definitely is a more unstable type, right? Like you said, like I do agree with you. Like the animated series Riddler is much more calm and collected. But even like comparing it to like Arkham version of Riddler, like in the Arkham games, he's like super unhinged. Like you start solving enough riddles, and he's just like, "How dare you! Like this is impossible. No way you're beating me. This is not like like he's always just talking smack or like he's very eccentric, like even in these Arkham games. So I can see where they're coming from.
Yeah, you have to push him to that point, and I don't feel like this Riddler needed to be pushed at all.
Hold still. I'll get you free.
You okay?
Yeah, that's fair.
We're safe.
Fair
Okay,
enough.
let me go to this next one. Third question. Then we have one more from Twitter. This is from Popcorn a lot pop. Thoughts on the cinematography and music? I thought both were amazing and love how in so many instances a person's face wasn't shown all the way. Not the case the whole movie, obviously. Again, we basically touched on this more so. Pretty much all agree unanimously that the cinematography was great, and that the music was really well done. So it was like a little bit more, and like none of it felt out of place, right? I think we can just move on from that one.
Yeah,
And they worked hand in hand together too.
Yeah.
right. Popcorn a lot. When they're saying like love so many instances a person's face wasn't shown all the way. That's where I was talking about the whole like foreground, background, the focus shifts and stuff like that. So like maybe the shot doesn't shift, but the shot is specifically made where only part of a person's face is on the foreground or the background, and then you're like looking at the other things. So you're like trying to piece the whole context together. Again, I like that where actively I'm trying to figure out what exactly they're trying to tell me. Maybe there's like a hidden message of what they're trying to do in this whole thing, right? So definitely really, really enjoyed the cinematography.
It also reminded me of not reminded me. It felt like it felt like they were trying to hide some of the stuff that would maybe get them to R, which is another interesting thing. Because again, back to that scene in the car, like that whole sequence where he's like choking him out and like hitting him over the head and stuff, and putting the bomb around his neck, that was all blurred out. Like you don't see any of it, right? So, which kind of worked to its effectiveness, right? Because that's another question that I'll just quickly address. Like, just because it's not R, it doesn't like mean it's like bad or worse, like or like it's not as dark. It still works really well. But yeah, I agree with you. Like some of the shots and foreground shots and stuff all work hand in hand, along with the music as well, like Alex said. And the last one from Twitter is from Cal. I personally love the portrayal of Bruce Wayne in this film. What do you guys think about Robert Pattinson's performance? Other than him being a bit mumbly at times, I absolutely adore his take on the character. Yeah, and I feel like we talked about it a lot.
I didn't really notice the mumble thing personally.
Yeah, it was more so like whisper, right? Like, I
Right.
just call it like aggressive whispering, right? I just like to say it.
Aggressive whispering.
I mean that's what it is, right? He goes from how can he do this, Alfred, to then when he's Batman, he's like, how can he do this, Alfred? Like he's like very like he's just like it's like low, right? It's kind of again very kind of for me again similar to Conroy. I will say sometimes he sounded like Christian Bale. That's only because like he's like a little out of breath, right? You're like, don't throw your life away, right? It's like it's like I think when he stopped like Selena from shooting Carmine, I thought that was he sounded a little bit like him. But that's mainly because he was just like out of breath. But those are the Twitter questions, and then anything in the Twitch that you guys have at the moment. Is Fazbear in this Game Geek? No. I mean, well, yes, maybe he's secret. Let me see. Let me scroll a little bit.
Of course you found that one easy.
Maybe Ray has an interesting question. Would you guys agree that the Riddler in most media isn't considered a threat? He's campy generally.
Yeah, I mean for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
Weren't you surprised when Batman got the first shots of Annika that he didn't check where the photos were taken from? Oh, that's interesting. Actually, yeah, that's actually an observation. Yeah.
You need to. Oh yeah, that's true. But again, that to me, like, as much as it's a kind of like a gotcha moment, I chalked it up to more likely that he's still an inexperienced detective, right? Because at the end, he should have figured out like the bombs and stuff like that, right? Like what the whole plan, Riddler's plan was, and he didn't. He kind of leaned heavily on Gordon to help him figure it out, a good chunk of the stuff. But like a seasoned veteran like the BVS Batman would have figured that out pretty quickly, right? So very clearly that just highlights that he's in beginning phases of becoming the ultimate detective, the ultimate martial artist and all stuff like that. So that's good to me. Like it just makes that like that little catch we have like highlights that even further. So yeah, I mean overall, I that's as much as that's a gotcha moment, it's a good thing though, because it just shows that they have a plan, and I'm excited to see where the other sequels and all the other stuff they planned out for Robert Pattinson's Batman.
Yep, I agree. The only scene that the PG-13 rating came in was the unmasking of the Riddler goon he pummeled at the end. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that the guy that was at the funeral that Bruce talked to? I don't know if that was.
He is a character we met earlier in the film. That much I do know. I don't remember exactly where because I've only seen the movie once, but I might have been like right before the funeral.
I have to see it again, yeah, because they made it a point to show him go into the shadows, right? Did you feel like them capturing Falcone gave the film a sense of completion, and the whole ending with Riddler's endgame was tagged on? I feel like both yes and no, because we weren't done with the Riddler at that point, right? Like we were done with the Rada Alada stuff and that riddle, right? I can see how some people can feel like it may be a little tagged on, that it became like a big superhero sequence at the end. But I feel like, for me anyway, even if it felt a little tagged on, I feel like the overall messages and like themes that were a result of that ending still worked to me, so I didn't really have any qualms with it. Yeah, I can see how people felt it was a little tagged on, but like I said, the Riddler wasn't captured, so I didn't think the movie was over yet. Now, what about you guys?
No, it definitely didn't feel like it was over to me at that point. Like there was definitely something left.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could tell too that it wasn't done yet. There was something more to go with, but like I could see his point of view that it felt that way only because in a regular movie that's two hours and a half at most, like you could tell like, oh, that might be the end, right? Like, you know what I mean? But since we know that it's longer than that, I could see where he's coming from though. That's what I'm trying to say.
Is it just me, or did they get the scene at the Iceberg Lounge where the elevator comes down, Thug checks it out, and the scene Oh no, wait, let's scroll up and sees Bat in the corner from Affleck's Batman because didn't he do that too? I feel like that's just a Batman thing, right? Like he'll
Yep.
just hide in a top corner or something, and then he'll just um like surprise you, right? It was cool though. It was very interesting. Um, just seeing him like on the top, and then like just again leads into a really good sequence where he's just uh, what's the word? Oh, the darkness of the hallway, and then all the muzzles. You know, they lit
Yep.
it up as action scenes progressed. Um, what else? Would you want a Batman cameo in the Penguin spinoff? It depends. It really just depends on the story, really, like of what they're going with the Penguin. If it's like the rise of him becoming the Penguin, then maybe. But because obviously it would kind of make sense that Batman would, take a couple of trips to the Iceberg Lounge if he's doing criminal deeds, right? So, I could see it. I could definitely see it, happening for sure.
Yeah, I could see that happening, but I don't think I want to see that personally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As cool as it is to have everything be interconnected and whatnot, I mean, maybe I'm old school. I like my things separated. You know what I mean? So I want my Batman to be in the movies. I want these characters to be fleshed out, but not necessarily be tied to Batman. Like, that's the whole point of like a spin-off series, right? You want to know more about those characters in particular, not just have another flashy moment to show like, hey, Batman's here. You know what I mean? So, as much as I could see it happen, I don't want it to happen personally.
Alec, you have to drop the guy. You have to cut the rope, and he'll break the wall for you to. Yeah. And then there's also another vent behind you as well for the third fan. Okay, what do you think, Alec? A couple more questions?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
crap.
we'll do like two more. We saw that one. Easter egg. Are you excited to see a new version of Joker by Barry Keoghan? Is that how you say his name, right?
I think that's how you say it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I again personally, like, even though I had a little issue with it, I do think his voice, because I felt like the way he portrayed it was more so him just being like manipulating, right? Like he's manipulating the Riddler. He was like manipulating Riddler, like, oh hey, like, don't cry. Like, hey, don't cry. I liked his voice. I don't know, like, we're obviously, when we all hear Joker, we all think instantly Mark Hamill and even Heath Ledger maybe, but I liked his kind of soft spoken, kind of manipulative voice, rather than the more like raspier Hamill type voice. But I liked his voice. I liked his laugh too, and I like that. Again, I just think he was trying to manipulate Riddler. So from the little bit that we saw from him, I liked him. I'll be excited. I think it'll be interesting to see. What about you guys think?
I'm interested.
Different take. Oh, go for it. Go for it.
I'm interested in seeing Joker in a different way than we've seen him before. Like, every time we've seen him before, it's kind of been Joker flying solo. I mean, a little bit towards the end of The Dark Knight, he sort of indoctrinates Two-Face into his cause a little bit for chaos. But it wasn't like they were a team up, you know? I want to see the Joker team up with somebody, and it looks like they're shooting for Riddler, which I'm okay with, but I just think it would be interesting to see in a live-action film Joker straight up work with somebody, and then turn around and double-cross them and stab him in the back.
It's horrible. How can we make a joke about that?
Yeah, for the quick little cameo we got for Joker, not a lot to judge on, other than, like you said, the demeanor's a little more soft spoken, more manipulation as opposed to just maniacal. So from that little glimpse, I'm kind of curious to see how they play it out. I just want to see something different, and I think that's definitely different. So not much to judge on, but let's see what they do with it.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Looking for one more question, and then probably wrap it up there. I think that's not good. I hope they adapt the 3 Joker still like the 2. Okay. Okay. Eman, I guess since you have the last pretty much question, I guess. How do you feel about the history of Gotham, and would the Court of Owls be a good main villain for the sequel? Yeah. I mean, everyone's talking about it. Even Dano and Pattinson like talked about it in like an interview. They're telling like Zoe and like Jeffrey to be like, "Oh, you guys have to read it. Like it's so good or whatever." I think personally, even though I want Court of Owls, I think they should like still weed out the, because I feel like that's something you have to build over time, and I would say would be better as a cap off to the trilogy or more or whatever they want to do. Because like Court of Owls is like a, I don't know the entire story, but it's like a super deep underground like thing that it's like manipulating all of Gotham, and it has so much crazy stuff in it that I feel like it would be a good I think it would be a good way to like put some seeds in the next movie for the third movie to be the Court of Owls. But I would like to see like Hush or even Mr. Freeze in the next movie personally, but since they're setting up Joker, we'll get Joker at some point.
Oh, dude, Mr. Freeze would be so good.
Yeah, I kind of want that.
Yeah, Mr. Freeze would be fantastic. No, not Ice to meet you. You stop that. You stop that right now.
Ice to meet you.
No. I lived through that movie once in the last few weeks. I don't ever need to relive it again. There is some talk of Mr. Freeze in the next movie. I'd be down for that.
Yeah. But yeah, you guys any input on the Court of Owls thing, or are we good?
I don't know anything about it, so. My understanding is that it has to do with the history of Gotham and the history of Arkham, and there's a big shadowy organization thing going on behind it. And you know, at this point, given what Marvel's given us, given what, you know, the quality stuff that DC has given us, there's some of it that we can just leave on the table. But I trust filmmakers to make the films. I mean, if they want to adapt a story, okay, let them adapt a story. If they want to make their own story and run with it, I mean, do that too. I mean, this story borrowed from The Long Halloween. It borrowed from a little bit from Batman Year One. You know, it took pieces of established stories and rearranged them and you know, made its own thing out of it. So I'm ready for it. Just give me more Batman. Hopefully I will become a live action Batman fan. But as long as I have the animated series to go back to, I will always be a Batman fan.
Alrighty.
Fair enough.
Yep. And I guess with that being said, I guess we can wrap up the stream here. I guess any closing thoughts from you guys before we head out? I'll just give mine really quick. Just like, I love the movie. Make sure you guys check it out if you guys get the chance. It's a bit different, a little bit long, of course, like we've all mentioned throughout this whole spoiler cast. Very film noir, so if you're into that, definitely give it a shot. It's a very different style comic book movie, but I loved it. Go ahead, Nolar. Yeah, those are my thoughts.
I love the movie too. I gotta see it again. I gotta see it in IMAX as well. Again, it's gonna win or be nominated at the very least. Hopefully, it's in the conversation for technical awards like sound design, cinematography, score, all that kind of stuff. It's very, very good. So from like a movie lover, definitely see it. From a Batman detective, like what I'm interested in, definitely go see that. It's worth it. Again, my only critique is just the length. They could have tightened it up a little bit. It is, you know, like I said, almost 3 hours. So if you gotta go to the bathroom before, do that. Don't get that large Diet Coke or whatever beforehand. You know, do what you gotta do. But definitely see this movie. It's well worth it. And yeah, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, regardless of my personal feelings of enjoyment of this film, like I said before, I recognize that this is a good movie. If you're a Batman fan, you're gonna find a lot of stuff you like about this movie. If you are an old school cinephile, if you like David Fincher's Seven, like Seven's a great example of a movie that if you like that, you'll like this movie.
Yep.
There is a lot going on in this movie and there's a lot of stuff to like, and there's a lot of stuff. Well, I wouldn't say a lot of stuff. There's less stuff to not like, which is always a huge benefit in DC's favor, in my opinion, because DC hasn't had the best track record.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, the one other thing too is they're focusing after this and the well reception. I think WB said they're obviously focusing more on the quality, which again should have been the mantra in the first place. But now they're saying they're going to focus more on the quality than the quantity of movies that they're pumping out for DC. So that's a good sign to me.
It's true. You really are the world's greatest detective.
So, with all that being said, thank you guys so much for sticking around, watching Alec play Batman while we talked about the Batman. Yeah, again, it probably ran a little bit longer than the Spider-Man one, just because I feel like there's a lot more to unpack in this movie, especially it being a newer, take like on a new series, right? While Spider-Man, for example, last time we did this was kind of the cap off of a trilogy, right? So yeah, appreciate y'all, and we'll see you all. I think Truve is gonna take over in like an hour-ish. He's on 10 p.m. I think you watched that in the beginning.
Yeah, 10
p.m. Eastern.
So hour and 15 or so.
Yep. So we'll see y'all then. Thank you guys so much for watching.
See you.
Peace.